There are 5 days till decision time. And so I have made a decision. Now, I'm not in the camp that this was an easy decision. Oh, come on, third parties, just dismiss them out of hand. They never had a chance. This is a crazy election. At some point, yes, they did have a chance. And Gary Johnson was up to 12%, which is a huge number for a third party, and he was trending upwards. If they had been allowed in the debates, this might be a different conversation altogether. I wanted to hear them all out. I did hear them all out. I interviewed Jill Stein 3 times. I interviewed Gary Johnson. I would have interviewed Gary Johnson more if he had agreed to come on the program more. I would have done a debate between Jill Stein and Gary Johnson. I would have done a debate with all 4 of them if they wanted to. I even asked Evan McMullen on the show. We gave everyone a fair hearing. But at this point, it's time to make a decision, because the reality is Gary Johnson is now at 3% and Jill Stein is at 2%. They are not going to win. So you can hate me for saying that, and you could get really, really mad, and you can call me shillery, and you can call me a sellout, and you can say I'm trying to help Trump or Hillary or whatever your fantasies lead you to. But and 5 months ago, I was the leading guy saying they should be allowed in the debates, and yes, they have a chance, and yes, they should have a fair hearing. Whether they had a fair hearing or not, and I don't think they did, I think they should have been allowed in the debates. I tried my best to give them a fair hearing. We are 5 days before the election. Someone's sitting at 3% in the polls. Right now, there's Gary Johnson advocates going, no way, he's at 6%. Congratulations. Someone at 6% in the polls is not going to win the election 5 days later. Not going to happen. If you don't like reality, okay, that's fine. Okay, you scream into the wilderness. If you've got other reasons you want to vote for a third party and want them to get to 5% in a particular state because of ballot measures or being on the ballot at a later election, etc., I understand. But understand what the stakes are too, because what we have here is not a normal election. So you can have other reasons, but don't pretend that one of the third party people are going to win today, because they're not going to. I know it. It's a fact. And if you don't like me for stating facts, okay, that's a sad day for you, maybe a sad day for me too. You don't want to watch the show anymore because you don't like facts. That's your choice, okay? Everybody's got a choice. That's what this segment's about. So, now people say, well, Cenk, what if I live in a really blue state or a really red state? Why don't I just vote for a third party because I like that guy better, right? Or I like that person better. Okay, you think you live in a swing state. Everybody's positive that they're in a swing state or not in a swing state. Well, New Hampshire, she's at a 6 to 8 point lead. Pennsylvania, she's at an 8 to 10 point lead. That's not a swing state. No. She's got those locked up. Oops, right now, last poll, Donald Trump up by 5 in New Hampshire. You better believe it's a swing state. Her lead in Pennsylvania in the last poll down to 2 points. You better believe it's a swing state. But you don't know that. Everybody thinks they know. Let me tell you an amazing fact. I'm not trying to say that Hillary Clinton's going to win Texas. But in one of the recent polls, she was only down by 4 points. Because the demographics are constantly changing. Ohio used to be a huge swing state, and Democrats had a great chance of winning it. Now it is leaning Republican because the demographics are changing. You're a demographic expert? No, I know. I know what's going to happen in my state. Maybe you do. And I hear you, brother. And I'm not here to say you must vote this way, which a lot of people on TV do. I'm telling you what I'm going to do, okay? So I believe that you should vote like your vote matters, because it does. I'm going to vote for Hillary Clinton. Okay, so now let me explain why. So the vote is not the most important part. I've explained this 1,000 times until I'm blue in the face on the Young Turks. The most important thing is activism. It was civil rights activists like Martin Luther King that got us the change we needed. It was women's rights activists who got us the 19th Amendment, where women had the right to vote. Woodrow Wilson was brought there as president kicking and screaming. He initially opposed it. It wasn't politicians who got us that change, it was activism. So that is the most important part of the funnel, the part where you have the most power even though you don't realize it. And that's where the media will yell at you, don't use that power. Oh, protesting's not cool. Sit at home and be really cool doing absolutely nothing, making sure that we're still in charge of the establishment. Don't believe the hype. They're lying to you. Activism is the most important. Number 2 is primaries. Primaries are the second most important because there you actually have a range of choices. When you get to the actual general election, Your choices have been really limited. You're at the bottom of the funnel. But you still have a voice. It's still a real choice. And if you don't use that voice and you don't use that choice, well, then you don't get to complain about it. So you can't say, well, I mean, I didn't do anything, but okay. But the guys who actually did, you voted this way or that way, I'm going to blame you. I'm going to blame you. That's an easy thing to do. That's a coward's choice. So in the real world, we have to make hard choices, even if it's a Hobson's choice like the one we have in this election. Now, people have said, oh, Cenk, you're way too tough on Hillary Clinton because Donald Trump's a monster and you should have been more on her side. Well, that's not my job. I don't work for her. So I covered all the Hillary Clinton stories because they were in the news. So if you wanted me to cover up for her and say, oh, no, she's wonderful because she's running against Donald Trump, that by definition means she's wonderful. That isn't true, and I was never going to say that. Or I guess your other idea is, well, Cenk, you're right about all those damaging stories like the Teneo connections and the consulting firm that led to the Clinton Foundation and how the money went all around and around. Watch all those videos that I did, dozens of videos, because they were right. And there is systemic corruption, and she is part of it. So I'm voting for her. Does that mean I'm endorsing her? I'm supporting her? No. It just means I have two realistic choices, and I'm making one of them. Because in this world, that's what we live with on a day-to-day basis. It's hard choices. It's not like, oh, guys, our two choices are pits of hell or unicorns and rainbows. Which ones should we go with? Okay? Yeah, well, that's the real world. So I understand that the establishment has laid a trap for us. I'm not unaware of it. I'm the guy who talks about it all the time. So, yeah, they gave you a choice where you couldn't vote for a monster like Donald Trump. Okay, well played, establishment. Nice job. I wasn't for Hillary Clinton in the primaries, and my vote does not mean I support everything she does. Far, far from it. In fact, not in day one, hour one, we plan to protest her. So it's a protest / rally / block party. Come join us at the Jacob Javits Center. And we demand that she gets big money out of politics in the next election. Because she didn't do it now. That's why we opposed her in the primaries. Well, next time, free and fair elections. By the way, don't call anybody Shillery if you're not showing up at protests. So I better see all you guys who are all animated and want to fix the system, I better see you at every protest. Because we're going to be there. So yeah, I get it, guys. It was a trap. But cutting your nose off to spite your face doesn't help you get out of the trap. What it does is it leaves you noseless. Okay, it's a very bad strategy. The correct strategy is you live to fight another day. So yes, we avoid fascism, check. Then we go fight the establishment, check. And then we win, check. That's how it works. So now, if I've got all these problems with Hillary Clinton, I've made all these videos explaining all the systemic corruption around her, then why am I voting for her? Well, it's very simple. I don't believe she has rainbows or unicorns either, but yes, her opponent is worse, significantly worse. So some of you might think, no, half a dozen and 6 in the other, right? No, it's about the same. No, look, there's some cases where you can say, okay, in foreign policy, she's very hawkish, and I don't know if she's going to have more military incursions like she supported when she was Secretary of State. And Donald Trump says he's going to withdraw some of our forces. He also says, by the way, that he would murder the family members of people he calls terrorists. He would bring back torture. He would bomb the hell out of ISIS, whatever that means, right? We also know that he's an incompetent buffoon who could probably start a war at any time if someone sends the wrong tweet. Okay, now that's your best case scenario for why they're quote unquote the same, right? But that is A, not a good argument to begin with, for reasons that I'll explain. But second of all, you can't leave it right there. There's so many other things. So point one against Donald Trump and why I would never countenance him becoming not only president of the United States, but the most powerful man on earth. Yes, he is a bigot, a racist, and a sexist. I'm not afraid to say those things because that's exactly what he is. He has a basket of deplorables because he is the captain of the team deplorables. So the first thing he said was Mexicans are rapists and criminals. And I guess you thought, well, I'm not a Mexican, so I don't really care that he insults them. Maybe I kind of like that he insults them. Then he said, I'm going to ban an entire religion. Picking on one religion and saying they're the real problem that we have in this country. I've seen that movie before. That movie doesn't end well. And it doesn't end in one religion. And it doesn't end in one ethnicity. And by the way, what did he do now? Now he's got his supporters out there, and we've shown you on videotape, going Lügenpresse. That's a Nazi term for lying press. The USA they're screaming at. It never ends in one religion. That's why when he attacked Muslims, the first people out against him was the Anti-Defamation League saying that is unacceptable. So of course it moves on to the next thing. He goes to a room full of Republican Jewish Coalition members and goes, you guys like to renegotiate deals. I know you're not going to support me because you like to control your politicians. I've heard that talk before. That movie doesn't end well. You can't let that guy win. You can't. It's not a sane position to let that guy win because you think you're in some ways protesting what? The way that you protest things is to actually protest them. Get out there in the streets, do civil disobedience. Take action that would get us an amendment to get money out of politics. That's a real revolution. That's real action. Not, I don't know, man, I wrote in my dog because I was angry at both candidates. All right, I know I'm being dismissive. But that's because things are very, very important right now. There's 5 days before an election, and you're going to let this wannabe fascist run the country? I think that's a crazy position. Now, look, I'm going to say one more thing. And then, by the way, let alone the racist position against Barack Obama, that he's not really one of us, let alone all the sexism. You know all that, right? Okay, so it is a tiny bit personal for me. That is not the big thing. The minute I say this, I know everybody's going to get obsessed and say, oh, that's why he did it, right? But think about it for a second. Okay, yes, it is a little personal for me. Some of my family members, I'm atheist, agnostic, but some of my family members back in Turkey are still Muslim. They won't be allowed into the country. I know what you're thinking. Oh, he won't really do that. Why? He told you he was going to do it. Why do you think he wouldn't do it? I read you the quotes from the Ascent of Hitler the other day. I didn't make these up. It's a book called Ascent, and they took newspaper clippings, and this is before Donald Trump got into the race. They were researching and writing this book for a long time. Just happens to match up. The newspaper clippings from the time in Germany saying, oh, he's just a dunderhead. He won't really do those things. Yeah, I know he wrote a book saying he's going to do those things, but he won't really do them. Don't worry about it. And here we are. He won't really do. Why? Why wouldn't he do those things? He ran on, I'm going to make sure Muslims don't enter the country. So I can't have my family members come back here. But I'm telling you, yes, that is atrocious. And if you're Mexican or Latino, he might literally kick some of your family members out of the country. Oh, no, he won't do that. Why wouldn't he do that? That's what got him to be president and the most powerful man on earth. So don't come crying and get surprised when he actually does it. And if you think, well, I'm not Mexican, I'm not Muslim, that's your family, I don't care about your family. That's their family, I don't care about their family. Well, think about that. Is that really the kind of person you want to be? Okay, if it is, okay, fine, don't care about anything. Then definitely don't call yourself a progressive. But even more important than him having these monstrous positions is his incompetence. Why is it more important? Because it leads to bigger trouble. So the first time I ever voted against a Republican, and I used to be a Republican growing up, was against George W. Bush in 2000. Because I looked at the guy and I said, Jesus Christ, this guy is incredibly incompetent. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Why won't the press call out what it is? This guy is not smart. And you know what happened? He wasn't smart. He invaded Iraq and didn't have a plan for it. It was a terrible idea in the first place. And it was the worst foreign policy blunder of our lifetimes. That's what incompetence gets you. His military plan after taking Baghdad, there was slide 4. You know what it said? TBD, to be determined. He didn't make a plan for occupation after he took Baghdad. That's what incompetence gets you. And it also got us the Great Recession where we lost 8 million jobs. And Trump is arguably more incompetent than George W. Bush. George W. Bush was born on third base. This is, Ann Richards' line, former governor of Texas. Born on third base, thought he hit a triple. Donald Trump is so stupid. He was born on third base, thought he kicked a field goal. He a buffoon of epic proportions. That's why he went bankrupt 6 times. That's why I told you in all those Loser Donald segments, his gross incompetence in everything he has ever done. It wasn't just to make fun of him. It was to give you a warning The guy's a buffoon. He had $200 million handed to him by his father, and all he's ever done is bungled it ever since. Now you hand that guy the keys to the kingdom, make him the most powerful man on earth, and brace for impact, because you're going to have impact. You are going to have a gigantic crash, whether it's an economic one, a military one, etc. So now you want to play games. We got 5 days left, and they are in essence tied right now. Tied nationally, tied in a lot of the swing states. And you want to play games with this. And finally, that's the third rung of why I'll never vote. Not only not vote for Donald Trump, of course not, but not risk having him be president in any way, shape, or form. Because I don't want to play dice with the planet. So there's two elements of that. One is climate change. So for all the different policy positions, and you say, hey, well, look, the Democrats are corporatists in this. Hey, I'm with you, brother. I'm the leader of that band, okay? They are corporatists, and they are frustrating, and they are part of that systemic corruption. On the other hand, Donald Trump says, I'm going to withdraw us from the Paris Accords. I'm going to get rid of every executive order that Barack Obama had regarding the environment. I'm going to get rid of 8 out of 10 regulations. I don't even know what that means. And he says that global warming and climate change is a hoax that was started by China. Blithering idiot and a danger to the world. So for 4 years, we're not going to do anything about climate change. You say the Democrats don't do enough. I agree with you. This guy says, no, we're going to go completely backwards. We're going to go in the opposite direction. And we're not going to do anything, and we're going to encourage the rest of the world to do nothing about climate change. We got 4 years to lose on climate change. And on top of that, God knows what war he starts or what trouble he starts because a foreign leader sent the wrong tweet. Because he knows in his heart of hearts that he's a loser. There's an article that just came out in the New York Times about an interview, 5 hours of interviews that he did with a biographer. And his number one fear is being called a loser because you know why? Because he knows he is one. He's deeply insecure. That's why he's an egomaniac. Oh, I got to show you how great I am. I got to show you how great I am. Fantastic. I'm tremendous. Because in his heart, he thinks, oh my God, I'm such a loser. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never been able to live up to my dad. I'm such a pathetic loser. That's why he's got thin skin. The minute he's challenged, he goes over the top. When you go over the top with the greatest military ever built by man, you endanger the planet. We're playing with fire here. I'm not going to play with that fire. So if Hillary Clinton wins, yes, I will fight her through and through, including on hour one. We got to protest. Come join us. Come join us. By the way, if she doesn't win, which is a very, very real possibility, we will move the protest to Donald Trump's headquarters, which is also in Manhattan, on that same night. And I will fight her on every issue, and I will fight through activism, through primaries, through everything we've got to change this system, because the system is wrong. And we will win, and we will get money out of politics. We will get an amendment, and we will fix the system, and we'll bring back our democracy. But you aren't going to do that by putting a fascist in charge. So yes, despite everything, and you can call me Shillery all day long. Not only are you wrong, we didn't take any money from the Clintons. If you only knew, the reality is the exact opposite. They use all the commercials that they run during election season as leverage for making sure people say the right thing on air. But we wouldn't play that game. So it has already cost us greatly to not be on her side and not to carry her water and not to toe the line. And today, when I tell you that I don't think the third parties have a chance 5 days before the election, and I tell you that I'm voting for Hillary Clinton, I am positive that we will lose members on our website. But I'm willing to take that hit, and I'm willing to pay that price because there's too much on the line. So begrudgingly, reluctantly, but yes, affirmatively, I will be voting for Hillary Clinton. Everything is on the line. I urge you to think very, very carefully about this. The Young Turks isn't just us, it's also you guys. You make this show possible, and we want to thank you for it, and we want to grow together. We want to be too strong. tytnetwork.com/join. Let's do it.